Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm not going to do the whole song and dance from before. There's about 15 minutes of that. I do apologize, but it really just boils down to the fact that there was a little bit of a bother with with Twitch's settings. Now that seems to have been resolved, which I'm happy about. And then second of all, I'm really trying to make it work as far as work and stream is going. And clearly stream is losing out as far as timing is concerned. And then of course means that I am streaming quite late today. Hey, Kieran, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. I see we're up for Cyberpunk today. Yes, although obviously I've had some difficulty getting started in a timely fashion. But I just reset the computer. I wanted to just make sure that any impediments to a quality stream were resolved. We seem to be there now, and I don't know. I'm looking forward to playing this. What the hell? Okay, cool.
Good morning, Night City! Yesterday's body...
You'll be playing along with me. Hopefully I don't get too confused with whose audio you're listening to. I guess you went for a male V as well. If you're playing Phantom Liberty, it's even harder, I suppose. Okay, so the one thing I am going to repeat from earlier, we are going to get the detail. Oh, there you go. Makes it easier. Meet with Hassan at the Longshore docks. Clever bastard's got a head for biz. He clearly made it and then some. I wonder if he misses that old corporate cage now. The Scraper. The Scraper is what remains of one of the last investments before the district's closure. This immense structure, located far from the skyline of city center, was supposed to offer a relaxing yet luxurious gateway for Night City's rich, though not necessarily the filthy rich. According to an investor's brochure, the Scraper was designed to be a modern 4-star hotel complex located on the picturesque Pacific coast, offering some 250 suites with breathtaking vistas and fitted with the latest and stylish amenities. Of course, those plans clearly failed to materialize. Today, scavengers have moved in and brought their own decor with them. Stolen tech and cyberware have replaced chic coffee tables, and in place of plush love seats, they've installed cozy cages for their long-stay guests. I haven't played Fallout for any meaningful length, so I'm not 100% sure about the reference, but it is International Women's Day after all, so good for you for hitting your targets. That feels disrespectful. Good for you for representation. Mr. Hands, when he was still Wade Bleeker, the Petrochem employee, practically everyone knew him, since scrubbing his identity from existence and adopting the persona of Mr. Hands, Pacifica's resident fixer. That's no longer the case. His appearance and true identity are a closely guarded secret. And in his previous life, Wade climbed fairly high up the Petrochem corporate ladder, but after a sudden shakeup in upper management, someone decided blood needed spilling at the altar of corporate efficiency. Unfortunately for Bleeker, he was chosen as the unfortunate sacrificial lamb. He proved cunning enough to survive the initial assassination attempt, but when an official bounty was put on his head, he had no choice but to change his name and face and disappear for good. Mr. Hands is a businessman through and through, cool-headed, calculating, and supremely focused on his objective. Precisely what that objective is, however, remains a mystery to all but Mr. Hands himself. And Hassan Demir, a Zetatech engineer who thought he had caught his big break after landing a corporate position, though in reality it turned out to be Zetatech who, I'm assuming, had caught him by the balls. His knack for problem-solving made him a competent engineer and an even better grifter. His intelligence, diluted by clumsiness, means he usually has more luck than sense, but by some miracle he always lands on his feet. They have a perk called Man-Eater, makes you deal more damage and easier speech checks. Since older games had more male characters, it was an easy choice. Also, the clothes are better. More damage and checks against males, I should add. Neat! Now I know what I'm playing when I do Fallout. Alright, so I'm going to take a minute here just to, I don't know, run around, let the game... There we go! Nice and smooth. No anime music though, so sorry for those of you who. I'd really, you know what? I wasn't gonna go and steal a car. But I've got the urge, or well, I would. Let's just do this the old-fashioned way. No problem. I'm having a good time with it myself, so I'm glad you like it. This is a great car. Okay. 3.5 minutes, but this is a very fast car. So what, out of curiosity, what character background did you go for, Kieran? I don't think we had a chance to talk about that yet. So I can probably take a hard corner here, but
Try not to ding the ride. Find some peaky one.
Alright. Oh, I hate you. I see what you wrote, Kieran. I'm just going to take a minute here to finish the mission, and then I will follow up. But I think you actually picked a really interesting origin. It's efficient. Okay, so Street Kid decides that your V was a common crook that loves tech, so kind of like you without the crime. Or at least the crimes that you'll admit. But yeah, the... So I am definitely big on Corpo origins, which will probably not surprise anyone. But I have tried the Street Kid start, and the Street Kid is actually probably my favorite, or close to my favorite at least. I actually think so the one thing I like the most about it is the introduction to Jackie. I actually think that start where you're both trying to steal the same car, and particularly the encounter with the police, I think is probably one of the more interesting starts to the game. I do like the corporate start just because it's an opportunity to see a part of the world that you really don't get to be inside of. Oh, this is not the mission I wanted. Yeah, so there's something about, being in the corporate world and then being outside of it, I think adds an interesting dimension to Cyberpunk. But the encounter with so the whole setup of Street Kid is interesting, right? So in that sense, you also kind of get your own view of the world, and again, it's one that you do get to see a little bit more of, but it's not necessarily the same when you start as the Street Kid. And I think that again, the encounter with the police I thought was a neat one, and also just the way that you meet Jackie. I don't necessarily mind the way that you start with Jackie as the corpo, but the thing is, like, he's your friend. He's always telling you, nah, you should get out of the whole, the whole corporate rat race. And that, and he protects you when you're taken out. But I don't know, like, it's not as, I just don't quite think, I don't feel quite the same connection to him as I do as a Street Kid. Obviously, you lose your friend. It's sad. It's there's it's not to suggest that I care about Jackie less, having played the corporate start, but I will say that I am probably I'm most attached to the way you meet him, even compared to the Nomad. I think the Street Kid is probably the one that I like the most in terms of sort of an origin story. Hit People Guy, how are you doing? For stealth sections, do you kill or incapacitate? Usually incapacitate. The new update actually changed it so that if you hide a body, you kill. That was not in the original game. Oops. I have noticed that I've kind of blown it on, I've sort of blown it on the whole, stealth side, so I just wind up, I kind of wind up blowing people away anyway. Alright, I really should get on with the main missions, but they're dangling the car right in front of me.
V, I got another moving target. Help it off the beaten path and right into my arms.
Stealthy till it's inconvenient is a nice way of putting it, although that is not really attributing the incompetence to the right place.
Okay, she's ours. Hop in and head to the garage. Send in the cords. Don't worry about my ride. Someone will.
Leave me alone!
Fair is fair.
Save me! Hear me?
I'm sure it's going to give me some kind of surprise, don't ding the car or something like that. Oop, sorry, software update on my phone. Hit People Guy is the easiest one to play fan service to. But what do you, out of curiosity, Cured, what do you think of the story so far? I don't know how far you've gotten into it, but do you have favorite characters? Do you have an idea of sort of who you want to become?
Don't bang her up or I'll lose a buyer. Believe in you, Chupata.
Well, I don't believe in me. Excuse me. It would be wrong to say that I'm sick, but I definitely have a little bit of a tickle in my throat, which I haven't been able to shake for a while, so... and I feel bad about it because there's one of two things that happens. Either I start to get a little scratchy while talking, or I have these extended silences, or the halfway point, which is to me just kind of clear my throat directly into the mic every now and again, which doesn't feel great.
Oh, yeah, I knew I picked the right merc for the gig. My man will take care of the rest. Little token of my appreciation's waiting for you in the drop locker.
Oh, that's interesting, Kieran. So I've had this game for a while, obviously, but I have not actually completed the main story. Were you familiar with the Cyberpunk setting before you played it, or was this like all brand new for you? As much as I love that. Which of these do I want? I mean, the Jefferson's not bad. Like, the Hellhound is fun, but it's a little... you know what, let's go... not... Something without a gun. Yeah, let's take the Jefferson. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I still need to check out the series. I know a bit from the source books. It's an interesting setting for sure. But I am kind of curious. Like, you know, it's... I've said this for a couple of things just because you know, I've broad interests. But, you know, when I think about... so one of the more recent ones that I've talked about would be Book of Hours, and how it's going to be interesting that there's a group of people who only ever know about Cultist Simulator because of Book of Hours. And some people want to start with Cultist Simulator at the very start, where others will play Book of Hours and then move into Cultist Simulator, or maybe never check it out at all. But clearly the interesting one, the interesting group is the one that, you know, has this first impression from a different game, because until Book of Hours was released, nobody had any other alternative for an initial video game impression. You know, there's the Locksmith's Dream, and then there's the you know, there's also The Lady Afterward. Those are, you know, those aren't nothing, but it's fair to say that that's a rarer experience compared to some of the, you know, to something like Book of Hours. There's actually an interesting... Okay, it's interesting to me. It's completely tedious to everybody else, but here's a neat little consideration when it comes to definitions of things. When you work with statistics, so there are, you know, there's plenty of reputable polling companies out there. I very often find that a lot of the things that people perceive as being these, like, huge disagreements in terms of statistical agent, or not even statistical agencies, but, like, you know, you have these expert sources that are claiming seemingly contradictory things. Very often what will happen is if you take a look at their definitions of a population, you see different groups, and often those divisions will be, you know, based on characteristics that are probably associated with those populations. So, average income, right? If your population is executives, like C-suite people, you would expect there to be a higher average income. Now, of course, it would be wrong then to turn around and say, you know, this poll is average incomes. That's, you know, basically misleading. You have a much more specific group that you're looking at. But anyways, one of the ones that I'm kind of hoping that people still have faith in are sort of official statistics from a national statistical agency. And the reason I say hopefully is because, I mean, I can really only speak to Canada, but I think this is true for a number of countries. The statistical agencies are given a certain degree of autonomy. They are not sort of like, they're part of the government, but they're not like a policy branch. It's not like a minister is going to be telling them, you know, GDP has to be this number today. You know, it's good that it be that way because you want people to give honest answers to statistical agencies. A funny thing about Canada actually is that it's the Statistics Act is a stronger piece of legislation than well, it's my car, Kieran. If it was somebody else's car, I'd be all over the place. But yeah, so one of the things that that comes up in a national statistical agency is, so first of all, you'll have a population, right? And then one of the things that they will draw from is a business register. So, and some countries also have a population register, although that can be very controversial depending on where you live. So I don't believe Canada has a population register, but I do know it has a business register. And then basically from the business register, that's usually what they'll use to draw from to get a sample. All right, this game really wants me to steal cars. Word.
Well, darling. They're in, huh? Great! Now grab the delivery cords and drive.
Really, I just keep stealing cars so I can find a radio station I like. This is a good one. But yeah, so the thing that's nice about this is that generally what you are dealing with is a body that has... So I think I was talking about the strength of the Statistics Act. But like in Canada, the Statistics Act is stronger than some of the national security legislation. And the reason for that is that if it isn't, then you have this very real... you have this very real threat that people are not going to give honest answers to the statistical agency. Because if basically, you know, a law enforcement...
Hear that? Clocks are ticking. Time waits for no chew.
If you have a... you know, the threat that all of the answers that you give will be, you know, handed over to some law enforcement body...
Try not to ding the ride. Clients are picky one.
Go super fast and don't ding it. Gotcha. The unicorn request. But yeah, like, so if there's a request to you know, to get information that might be used in some sort of investigation, you're going to be more reluctant to give an honest answer. And then, of course, the question for the country is, well, what do you value more? You know, an accurate information about what's happening in the country through the statistical agency, or the ability to somehow pull the wool over, you know, everyone's eyes and use statistical information to prosecute criminals, basically. And whatever your thinking of that is, basically Canada has said, if you're doing the crimes and you say that on a survey, and then the RCMP comes and says, hey, we want to know about this guy, StatCan says go take a hike. And in principle, at least, I have no idea. Like, it's your guess is as good as mine as to whether or not they do that. But having had to deal with StatCan data, they're pretty serious about what you use that for. It is actually quite... So not only is it quite difficult to get microdata out of them, when you do get microdata, very often it will have, and appropriately so, right, all of this anonymization. So you'll have, identifier, 1000 or something like that, but you're not going to know that it's, your neighbor or something like that. It's like Taxes in America tell the IRS you've got your money through crime. They don't care. They just want their cut. Yeah, I mean, this is it. It sounds a little funny right up until you sort of consider what the alternatives are. Didn't ding it. No, I mean, again, like, the problem here is, like, if you're running a meth lab and StatCan comes with the, like, how many meth labs are there in Canada survey, you are going to have to make a guess as to whether or not the person running the meth lab is, going to answer honestly, right? Like, and that, honestly, every person doing a survey is going to have to think about that, right? Like, people lie all the time. And even on things that are not, like, really major, right? Even things that might even be, socially embarrassing, people are going to get weird about. So, you do the best you can. You try to design a good survey and so on and so forth. And, like, honestly, like, I just work with data, so it's not like I get to tell the StatCan people, now you're doing it wrong. I know better.
Call you back.
Oh, come on.
Not gonna lie, V. You got a gift. Thanks for the help, V. My chum will do the finishing touches.
Reminds me of my first date. All right, let's see if I'll actually make it to the job. But yeah, so the reason why hopefully you would, rely on business statistics from, from an institution that holds the business frame. So first of all, they've got a really good idea of the state of the country, right? They're going to have sort of this special access, which is given to them through sort of the law, in terms of just knowing the state of the country. Now, again, it's not to suggest that private firms aren't capable of collecting data. They're actually very good at doing that. But in terms of the frame that they draw from, that can be quite helpful. And then, in addition to that, like, from that frame, they use a whole bunch of methodology to sort of make sure that what they are picking up is representative. And so if you've ever had to work with data like that, like, statistical agencies usually have these, like, publicly available files that you can use. Like, it's it depends on what you're looking for, really, but there are some publicly used files. But in some cases, like, there'll be weights, right? So if you just work with the data, you're actually going to get numbers that are different from the statistical agency, and it's specifically, it's specifically because the weighting matters. They're trying to account for the fact that it's more likely that you're going to see certain observations from certain groups more often. And, obviously there's a lot of writing that goes into, or not goes into, but that has sort of informed the best way to go about that. But yeah, with that in mind, it can be it can be helpful to just see, you know, when someone is saying, okay, here's what the average for a business is. If they define businesses as being, I don't know, 100 or more employees, well, that's fine. That can be your definition for a business. But I believe Industry Canada, or I guess it's called, I said, Industry Science, Education and Development. I can't remember the exactly, or maybe Innovation. Anyways, whatever Industry Canada used to be called. Like, I think their definitions would be something along the lines of, like, up to 25 is small, 26 to 250, or maybe it's 50 is the cutoff. So either 25 or 50 for small, and then either 26 or 51 to 250 would be medium-sized, and then 250 or greater is a large business. That's employees. Now, again, if you've got a private firm which says, you know, we're only considering businesses of 100 employees or larger, that's fine. But just keep in mind that if it's about something like average salary, or if it's about executive compensation, you're possibly going to get a different answer than what an official statistic would say, because they're considering businesses with, you know, 25 or more employees, or possibly even smaller. And it's reasonable to think that, you know, executives are going to be better paid at larger companies. That's not even a question that you'd really need to go to a statistical agency for. You can probably just check public filings. When I say public filings, I'm talking about publicly traded companies. So, like, Larry Ellison is probably better paid than, you know, whoever's running, you know, something that just got listed on, you know, on the TSX Venture. There was a point to this rant at some point, but I have long since lost the plot. I also don't know where the fight is. Okay, I think I'm good for pistols. I wouldn't say no to a better assault rifle. The biggest thing about this one is that it doesn't, like, it's not auto, which surprised me. Although I do like its damage. Okay, so I'm not going to get rid of any of the tier 5 stuff through sales. The white ones I think I can. Do I have another sniper? I don't, so I guess we're going to hang on to that one. What's the best damage on a revolver? 224. A lot of sales options here. Shouldn't hang on to all of them, but I am. Do I have any booze I can sell? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do as a plan B. Anything that isn't... so anything I don't want to keep, basically, I'm going to disassemble. I found an iconic precision rifle that you've been using for the majority of your playthrough, along with a silent sniper for stealth. That's interesting. I've actually kind of blown it for a lot of my long-range stuff, but I'd like to be a little more effective with them in future. Okay, so 2 precision rifles. One is 90 with a lower attack speed, lower reload, higher effective range. Slightly better reload. 8 points worse on damage, but better. You know what? I think I can afford to scrap this precision rifle. Okay, so that's the precision rifles accounted for. And as far as pistols go, I think this is really just a comparison to the one that I already have. This one doesn't do more damage, so we'll scrap that. Don't really need to worry about the smart link. Pretty happy with the pistol I have right now, to be completely honest. Okay, now I don't see myself using a submachine gun, but just in case, we'll keep the Dian. This might be more attractive, actually. I think I'll hang on to these two because I'm feeling a little indecisive. Okay, and for shotguns, 188 or 305, I actually genuinely can't decide between these two, so I'm going to leave it. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. You never said long range? Your melee precision rifle. So this should get... There we go. I am curious how it's going to get me... Oh, there we go.
Thank you, ma'am. Till the last.
Okay, well, I'll try to remember what the hell I was talking about before, but while we wait, let's do a mission.
Ah, you're here. I was just wondering if you'd come.
Wondering that myself, Hassan. Corp's got wide radar and long memories. Stick your neck out like this, they could bite.
Yes, I could have rotted in a scav cage. You could have left me at the Fixer's mercy. Could would should.
Looks like you're doing pretty well. This your new pad?
It is. It may not be a Corpo Plaza penthouse, but I can't complain. At least I didn't sign my life away to a bank.
Down payment came from me, though. Seems my cred bought you a second chance.
Yes. That's why I'd like to repay you. Here, for you.
Huh. Don't know this model.
Ah, it's something I was tinkering with. I may not have been completely honest, but the engineer part wasn't a lie. I went to the stadium, showed what I could do, and landed a few investors. This is the first real copy I made. For you.
Thanks, Hassan.
No, thank you. Now we are even, it seems.
You wish. So, how's things? Rough time start.
Dogtown, a splinter in the eye of Night City. The combat zone known as Dogtown was meant to be Night City's proud calling card. Today, it's but a stain on its conscience, forgotten by NC and its residents who consider it a monument to grand but futile designs, failed investments, and a complete loss of control. Dubbed Serenisans to convey a sense of tranquil ocean shores, it became everything but a haven for the excluded, fugitives, and common criminals. It was only a matter of time before someone capitalized on the mess and took over the district. That someone was, of course, Colonel Kurt Hansen and his Barghest unit. This is the story of the district's downfall and subsequent rise of Hansen's criminal empire. Selphea, good to see you. You were doing My Time at Sand... You started with something different, but you were doing My Time at Sandrock on yesterday, weren't you? And Dendrian, you were doing Against the Storm today, I think. Also, I'm getting my nasty bitrate complaint again. Pardon me for just a moment. I was a little worried this might happen. Didn't start with something different. You just forgot to change the stream details. Fair enough. Well, I'm sure some of you can bring it in your hearts to forgive Selphea for setting the wrong the wrong game. I think Dendron was also doing some Marvel's Midnight Suns, if I recall correctly, but I think that's probably in the rearview mirror. All right, story of Kurt Hansen and his criminal empire. In order to paint the full picture, we have to start at the time of the Fourth Corporate War. Pacifica is being flooded with refugees from Night City proper. They seek shelter on the outskirts of the metropolis, but it quickly becomes clear that they aren't welcome there. The constant influx of people creates tension, leading to a conflict with Pacifica's security forces that quickly escalates into full-blown riots. Streets are littered with bodies after violent clashes that often last for days on end. Wealthy locals and investors fear the situation is getting out of hand and decide to leave the district for good, thus expediting its downfall. Pacifica finds itself on a downward spiral and falls into ruin. Fast forward to the 2050s. The Night City Council works to restore Pacifica to its former glory. New investors appear, enticing the city officials with bold plans and promises of prosperity. The decade begins with wide-scale reconstruction spearheaded by Militech. Modern buildings replace dilapidated relics of the past, and a high-speed road network connects Pacifica to Night City and beyond. The investment is meant to be a display of Night City's economic strength, but any such act inevitably breeds resistance. A large explosion under the construction site for the local entertainment complex ruins the buoyant moods of the Night City Council and Pacifica investors. An extensive investigation does not provide any answers and results in doubling the local security detail. More importantly, the council members decide to build a wall separating Serenisans from the rest of the city. Construction work resumes, and for a time it seems the new measures are enough to bring the investment to completion. However, just a few years later, the Unification War breaks out, halting progress once again. Investors back out as completing the construction of a luxury resort drops down the financial priority list. The area, devoid of any law enforcement, becomes a criminal haven controlled by the Voodoo Boys. A lawless, walled-out district neighboring an enemy city seemed like a perfect place for a military assault. Militech also seems to share this view, and in 2070, the corporation sends their troops to Serenisans. A full-scale attack on Night City seems to be imminent, but it never happens, in large part thanks to Arasaka's supercarrier entering the Coronado Bay as a result of an agreement signed with Saburo Arasaka by then-Councilman Lucian. Militech orders retreat, but a large number of troops decide to ignore the directive and remain in the area. The Arvin Accord turns Night City into a fully autonomous metropolis. The abandoned district becomes no man's land, and this is the perfect opportunity for Colonel Kurt Hansen and his ex-Militech unit to take over what is now known as Dogtown. Soon, along with his veteran comrades, he establishes Bargist, growing his newly found army by first recruiting mercenaries and later all whittling renegades and gangoons. The district once again becomes a sanctuary for refugees, fugitives, and travelers. Today, Dogtown has its own law enforcement and trade regulations with Night City, the NUSA, and other countries. NC officials are in no hurry to address the issue of the city's noisy neighbors, and chances of rebuilding Serenisans in the future are illusory at best. It's much easier to simply look the other way, towards greener pastures. New, exciting opportunities are easier to sell to investors than troublesome combat zones. They'd much rather start from scratch. Also, I should say, seeing as it is International Women's Day, Sophia is an international woman. So, happy IWD, a holiday which has its origins in communism. And I realize everybody here loves communism, right?
Starting from zero?
Well, Dogtown isn't quite the promised land, is it? I've had to learn its ways. But if I survived in the Corp, I can manage here.
Don't take kindly to ex-suits here, do they?
They do not. But they do appreciate talent. Provided you've got the right skills, you can earn your second chance.
So, what are you up to these days?
Honestly, the same things I did at Zetatech.
Ah, so hazing peeps and klepping their cred.
Haha, very funny. Repairing and modifying weapons and implants. Whatever comes my way. Sure, it's older gear, cheaper parts. But at least there are no more suits breathing down my neck.
All right, let's see if this pistol gives me any superpowers. Better attack speed, but less damage. Seems to say it's a higher... I'm assuming DPS is the measure. Chance to apply blinding. But it says a charge time. Okay, I don't think I'm comfortable working with this one. All right, next up. It does seem to make me want to go to the Damned. I don't think we have any more Phantom Liberty. Okay, not entirely true. But it says wait, so can't do that. This one is quite fun. But yeah, it looks like we're back to the main Phantom Liberty quest. So, meet with Reed near Slider's hideout. The plot thickens, the cast is expanding, and the drama becomes a farce. Don't you think that one more secret agent in this motley crew of down presidents, missing netrunners, and sleeper pigs is one too many? Stay on top of them, V. Don't let yourself get dragged into an even bigger mess, like next corporate war big. Songbird. Song So Mi, Korean, codename Songbird, is a netrunner in the FIA. She started out as a freelance netrunner, taking on assignments that others dismissed as well-paying but suicidal. Meanwhile, before Somi's eyes, corporate data fortresses opened without so much as a shove. She always worked solo and spent every eddy earned on newer, better equipment and every more extravagant means of entertainment. She quickly became a living legend of the trade, although some didn't believe someone of her caliber could exist for long, if at all. The FIA believed. When Song took an oath of allegiance to the new United States and was given the operational nickname Songbird, the prototype technologies developed by the agency in strict secrecy from foreign governments, and sometimes from their own, were placed at her fingertips. So, I'll be honest about something here. I think Phantom Liberty is very cool. I think I'm very happy that this game has had something of a redemption story, although I will say I also feel mad that the redemption story was required, because I do feel that while there were problems with the release, the reaction was completely disproportionate to the actual problems of the game. But I am going to be honest with you, I really get the impression that none of the text was proofread. And like, here's the thing, right? Like, typos can be a really annoying thing to point out a whole lot. I think we've all kind of encountered the type of person on an online forum or Discord or something like that, where it's like, oh man, I was really going to have to like consider the flaws of my argument, but I see you misplaced a comma here, so I can ignore everything, right? That's just really annoying. On the other hand, right, this is a very high quality game. This is a game that, you know, asks quite a bit of money to play. It's, you know, got some demanding system requirements, and it's a game about, you know, its story. It's about the world, and being able to read some of these details are, you know, some of this stuff matters. And I will admit, with Phantom Liberty, there's actually quite a few of these. And like the sort of thing, I think the thing that bothers me the most is that if it was the sort of thing that maybe an automated check would miss, so like, you know, when people make the mistake of IT''S or ITS, like that sort of stuff, okay, it makes sense. It's been a while now with Phantom Liberty, and this stuff, which even just putting it into Word is still here. So I don't know, like I get that the text is not the biggest deal, but it's actually, it kind of grates me that this stuff still, that this stuff is present. Anyways, we're placed at her fingertips. In return, Songbird was forced to quickly learn two concepts that had been completely foreign to her until that point: following orders and playing as a team. The immunity of a government agent, backed and protected by a powerful bureaucratic apparatus, guaranteed Song would remain untouchable. From masking vehicle signatures at secret meetings between NUSA officials and military juntas in Central America, to obliterating the digital footprints of commandos that executed terrorists impersonating the Bartmoss Collective, Netwatch agents could only listen to the echoes of Songbird's footsteps in cyberspace, echoes that suspiciously went quiet near the Black Wall. The Voodoo Boys in Dogtown. Some say the Voodoo Boys of Dogtown live closer to the edge than their brothers and sisters in Pacifica. They take more risks and rarely look back before the dark corners of the net more often, and end up earning more too. In a way, the boundary between Pacifica and Dogtown is also the boundary between idealists and pragmatists. Pragmatic Dogtown netrunners do business in the stadium, lend others their services, run shady biz, and protect the data of Hansen's guests, covering their tracks through the district subnets. In other words, they keep the deluge of ones and zeros from leaking out of Dogtown. From time to time, the symbiotic relationship between Barghest and the Voodoo Boys can seem shaky. So far, however, Hansen managed to ensure it's a little rumble here and there, and not a full-blown earthquake. And Wilkie Slider Laguerre, a brilliant Voodoo Boy netrunner who was once the right hand of Mama Brigitte before they clashed over ideals. Brigitte dreamed of piercing the Black Wall, which led to constant skirmishes with Netwatch, while Slider preferred to stay away from grand schemes to focus on what he did best, carrying out corporate heists and assassinations via cyberspace. Unfortunately for him, one such heist caught the attention of FIA agents, who irreversibly deprived him of his sight, and then through blackmail and intimidation made him their informant. In an attempt to break free from the agency's chains, he fled Pacifica and joined his brothers in Dogtown, where he took control of an illegal software operation. As it turned out, the FIA's reach extended there as well. Now, I do apologize, it's a little earlier than I was planning, but I'm going to take a small break for two reasons. One, I want to refill my tea. And number two, I kind of got to go to the bathroom. So I'll just try to keep it a couple of minutes, but I do know I need to let the kettle boil, and figured better to get this all out of the way now. So I'm going to run some ads. Hopefully that will mean that there's no pre-roll for people when I come back, but we'll be back to play at least a little more Cyberpunk now that we know what we are dealing with. I will see you all in a couple minutes. All right, I appreciate everybody's patience. So I'm sorry to kind of go for a break early, but the day's catching up with me, and I'm trying not to finish the stream like early, but I don't know. I need some kind of a pick me up, so the tea will hopefully help. Oh, I could have met with Solomon Reed, but we have an opportunity to steal a car, which means I have an opportunity to buy a car at a discount.
Are you fucking high? You playing games with him? You are totally high. Yes, that's it.
I don't like this at all.
Leave the car alone. That was awful, by the way.
Did you hear?
Positions! Hold them, goddammit!
Okay, not my finest moment, but
Hey, V. 3 new wheels, huh? Letting you the delivery address now.
I don't know what he just did. Oh. I was gonna like do a horn or something like that. Anyways, I will find out what he does next time it's on off cooldown. I mean, at least it's not telling me to deliver it on time yet.
Shit, got someone on your ass.
So if I don't shake him, I'll shoot him, but I should be able to... Oh, nope. They're coming up behind me, so... Almost. So there is a question for you, Kieran. I don't know. I think you said you're doing Phantom Liberty now. How often do you get sidetracked with these car robbery missions? That again. I am curious if I can shake him by driving recklessly. Oop. Worst commute ever. Sorry, officer, I didn't see you there. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, sorry. There was a thing I was going to say earlier, Kieran, about... so I was talking a little bit about Book of Hours and how it's this potentially very unique way of introducing people to the world when some of the other products are quite different. And in some ways I kind of feel the same way about Cyberpunk. Now, clearly the game was made with Mike Pondsmith's input, and you know, it's also, I believe it takes place sometime after the setting of Cyberpunk Red. So I think the idea here is that it's where, like, essentially the story that you play is sort of where the tabletop story is going. But I will say, like, from what I've read, I mean, so first of all, what I've read of some of the original source books, it's quite different from what the game used to be. I mean, there was a, what was it, a Paranoia crossover, I feel, at some point. And then, like, some of the poser gangs and things like that got quite goofy, which is clearly not a direction that, that this game went. And that's not, definitely doesn't mean that the game isn't good, or that it's, you know, not something worth playing, or not true to the, you know, not true to the source material or something like that. But it is kind of interesting just to see. Oh yeah, actually, I finally remembered the point I was going to make about statistical frames. What does kind of become interesting is how we wind up defining things relative to their popularity. So the easiest example I can give of this would actually be television shows. And you can be movies and television shows. Television shows are probably the better modern example. Because, I mean, let's face it, like, the movie version you would give would probably be The Lord of the Rings. But, like, The Lord of the Rings is an old movie now. So probably the better contemporary example would be something like Game of Thrones, where, you know, and then you can, I think this is a dumb way of identifying it, but there'll be some people who are like, oh, well, you obviously like the TV show because it's actually called A Song of Ice and Fire. And it's like, okay, whatever. But, you know, clearly there is a view as to what that story is. Okay, somebody doesn't like me. Ha! Okay, I don't know why they suddenly got pissed off over there, but this has suddenly got a lot more interesting. I kept pushing the wrong button.
89.3. Ну ты мне ответишь, уёбок!
Good for goodies. But yeah, so like, you know, when if you wind up thinking about George R.R. Martin's work. Oh, here we go. That Bloodbag V is rotten fucking meat. That fuckhead murdered our brothers and sisters in Chrome, and he will suffer for that. If anyone catches him burning rubber and Watts again, you drag him out by the hair and beat that cocky fucking face of his into a fleshy pulp. Don't leave anything for the rats. I really do like the fact that you can piss off factions, because I'm assuming this is a direct result of me taking that scavenger vehicle. But yeah, anyway, so I think most people get the idea, right, where if there's an adaptation of something, generally there's going to be a larger audience for a series of some kind than for the original source material. And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But what does become interesting is how, if it becomes sufficiently successful, that sort of defines like what the product is. So there are going to be some people who, you know, do not think of Tom Bombadil and The Lord of the Rings. And, you know, there's all sorts of changes between Game of Thrones and the books, and of course we don't know all of those changes because the written series is not finished yet. But I kind of like, this is a weird analogy to draw, but there's actually okay, this will get interesting.
Voy a crucificar al cabrón de mierda.
I can't blow up the vehicle, so... Oh, come on. Normally they get out of the way. Also, it's not showing... Yeah, you know what? He had it coming.
We have a situation in Westbrook. Please respond.
Copy, dispatch. I swear to Christ, if it's Eurodyne again.
So where I was originally wanting to go with this was to talk a little bit about the fun job of defining Asmodee. So is anybody familiar with the company Asmodee?
Real beauties, isn't she? Grab the cords to my drop spot and fly. Right, get the fuck over here. Kinda in a hurry on this one.
Alright, I think I'm probably just gonna book it and hope for the best. Okay, so here's a question for you, nearly logical, and anyone who wants can answer this, obviously. What kind of company is Asmodee? What business are they in? No. Every company is in acquisitions, if that's the definition.
Everyone's back on the dance floor.
I don't think I'm going to make the deadline, but let's do our best. Okay. So yes, that is a perfectly reasonable way of thinking about what business Asmodee is in. So the next part that makes this interesting is how would you define, like, how did you come to that that decision? How would you define what makes a board game company, and how, you know, how it would be, or if you were to say something wasn't a board game company, what would, you know, how would you maybe
You're close now, but lose the tail. Or wipe them out yourself. Not gonna lie, V. You got a gift.
Plus some rain dance, whatever.
Thanks for the help, V. My chum will do the finishing touches.
All right, let's see if we can actually finally make it to a meeting with Solomon Reed.
You know the best part? Already got the irons right in this shop.
Okay, so anyways, to get to the point I was originally working towards, one of the things that becomes kind of interesting once you start dealing with things like business registers and whatnot, is you do actually need to think of a definition in terms of what a company is, right? So if a country is going to try and organize that framework, sometimes what you need to do with a framework like that is actually find a way of being able to classify businesses with the possibility that those industries don't exist at the time that you are creating these classifications. So for instance, if you consider, so the macroeconomic variables that we work with today come from a concept known as the system of national accounts that was largely created around the post-war period. Now, if you think about that, right, it's not that computers did not exist in World War II. They very famously were used in World War II for certain things. But the idea of the computer as we think of it today, as this sort of not just engine of prosperity, but this thing that is essential to operate in the modern world, not only did that not really exist, but that was not something that would be there until the system of national accounts was sort of used and relied on for decades. And yet it has been a framework that's been capable of sort of incorporating those kinds of changes, and presumably will in the future. Now, that doesn't mean that it hasn't changed. There's been refinements that have been made. But it's kind of an interesting problem, because if you are just relying on sort of I'll know it when I see it changes, then essentially what you are relying on is that you're basically kind of hoping that the people at a statistical agency are so on top of everything that they're essentially going to be able to identify major changes in the economy before anyone else does. And of course, the drawback here is that if you are the sort of person with that kind of crystal ball, why on earth would you be working for a national statistical agency? Like, go and make your fortune, right? So this can be a challenge, right? And it's not even necessarily that what I'm going to say is the best answer, but you do wind up with some really funny problems. So I don't even want to ask what happened there. Asmodee is an interesting problem because you are absolutely right that when you look at Asmodee, when you look at the products that you're probably most interested in from them, and what you you know, you probably think of things like Ticket to Ride. But what becomes interesting is that very often when you are dealing with these kinds of measures, I'm just going to take a second to go to the map to see if I can maybe get a little more responsiveness. Very often what a company will, or what an agency will do, is they'll say, it's like, okay, well, let's do what Nearly Logical says. Look at the thing that they produce the most. And then it's like, well, how do you measure what they produce the most, right? If you go by units, well, a company that makes jelly beans, this is the silliest example possible, right? Like, let's say you've got a conglomerate and they have a division. I don't even know if I have any legs right now, cured. Titanium bone, or no, those aren't like the legs. Oh, I do. Reinforced tendons. I forgot that I bought those legs. I just noticed things are a little more sluggish than they used to be, but I don't really want to save and reset. Actually, you know what? I can save and reset because we haven't started the next mission yet, so I'm just going to do that really quick. But yeah, so you can say, so think of you this silliest example I can imagine. Let's say you've got a conglomerate, and it has, you know, a jelly bean manufacturer, and it has, you know, a division that does, you know, these incredibly precise engineering for spaceship parts. You know, it's one. There are companies that do this, by the way, where there's one. Okay, I'm just waiting for the cloud sync to go through. Thank you very much for the subscription, Nearly Logical. I'm also getting attitude from Twitch again. So we'll see if we can fix that. 93% on the sync. But yeah, so like if we did it from a quantity measure, and you've got this conglomerate which has a jelly bean, you know, it's confectionery, it makes jelly beans. And then you have, you know, this other division that winds up making this very rare and essential component for space shuttles, or whatever, you know, you want. It is entirely conceivable that the engineering division makes more money, but because it is essentially making this very small number of very high value items, you know, and like you can imagine the silly example, right, where you start off as this manufacturer, and because you know, let's say interest rates are really low, you don't have other things. Yamaha is like my favorite piano and motorbike company. Actually, I believe the instruments division has been sold off. But yeah, no, that's exactly the problem you run into here. So if you do it by quantity, you can have some problems there where, like, you know, you have this manufacturer that, you know, maybe they just have a really good deal for confectionery, right? They're able to get it at a very good price, and essentially the operations, you know, are pretty turnkey. You don't need to worry about any kind of specialization for it. By, you know, trying to take advantage of this financial or you know, for whatever financial reason they do this, all of a sudden they're reclassified into an entirely different business because of quantity. So clearly you can't just say the number of units being produced, there's something about value. So what do you use? Well, in the case of these accounts, it is absolutely, or in terms of frames, it is absolutely the case that they will usually use revenue. And this is the funny thing about Asmodee, is that they are a board game company. I think any reasonable person will look at that and say, you know, okay, you know, they have Fantasy Flight Games. You know, Fantasy Flight Games made Netrunner, or not, Android Netrunner for a while, and you know they do those Star Wars board games and Twilight Imperium, all these wonderful things, and then there's Ticket to Ride and so on. But then this, I think, nearly logical kind of alluded to this. There is a digital version of Ticket to Ride, and you know, Ticket to Ride is going to cost you about $80 to buy as a physical board game, and of course you need to have a bunch of people who will tolerate being in the same room playing a board game together. And the app version of Ticket to Ride is going to be like $5. You can buy the different boards separately. And generally there are more people with smartphones who are looking for a nice little distraction. And so by the definition that you would use as a statistical agency, there's actually a pretty good case to be made. And I don't know exactly. I mean, I think Asmodee is a French company, so I don't know exactly what they classify them as. But I think it would be a pretty good argument to be made that they are a lot more in common with Electronic Arts as a publisher of digital goods than they are, you know, anything else. And again, that's just what happens when you use revenues for these things. Now, in fairness, like Asmodee also, I think they bought like Playdeck and things like that. And of course, they've been acquired by Embracer. Whether Embracer keeps them is a whole other question. But it's kind of funny, right? Because like there's never going to be an ideal classification. And it does kind of depend on who's doing the classification and what the point of the exercise is. But again, the big challenge is that what some, and the revenue thing is a little bit different from the system of national accounts. But the thing is that in some of these cases, you are actually dealing with trying to classify things that may or may not exist at the time that you're trying to work out these frameworks. Guess I'm waiting.
You haven't been waiting long, I hope.
Well, guess you and Alex needed a while to catch up.
Yeah. All swell now, though. Let's go. Time's at a premium.
Time's at a premium from the guy who made me wait all day.
They posted lookouts. Go figure. I doubt they'll play nice and just let us in. Hello?
No harm in talking to
me.
him. Might let us through.
You look like bad news. Turn around and crawl back to the hole you came from.
Need to talk to Slider.
No Slider to speak of here, Zombie. So kindly fuck the fuck off, eh?
Not about to be stopped by the likes of you. Gonna get Slider, just like I got Mama Brigitte.
That was you. Shit!
Everybody just keep calm.
Fuck off, Grumpy.
How bad, Chum? Come on, V. Let's be on our way. I spotted the shaft on our way in. We just need to find a vent, crawl through to the other side, and open the door.
Okay, gonna take a look.
I'll hang back on lookout. Cover you if need be.
See a door. Ventilation system might be behind it.
It's worth a try.
Là. Accent noir. 0.
Okay.
Yon. Yon. 0. Yon. Yon. 0. Silly.
I do like the look of everything. So what am I going to do with this vent? The thing is, I don't really know where the vent is overall. So I'm sort of just following the game logic of they can't they can't make me do nothing for too long, so if I just walk around, I'm gonna find a magic way in.
Come on through.
Thanks.
Oop.
Oh shit.
Mais qui ça y est? Your gros grand rat, Kimbe. We tickle your nerve ending till you scream. Stand back! Tension à monter!
Easy now. This led to the main server, which gives me an idea. Get ready for some lead spin. Now, B. You start things.
Okay, there's obviously a camera that saw me somewhere. Okay.
They're re-up in combat, demon. Coolant vent. Take him out.
Good God. I need to find... Okay, well at least I got some time.
You're dead now, friend. Server's cooling down. Port's wide open.
I do love it when the game gets chaotic like this, but... Oh no!
They're done for. Not too shabby, B.
Okay.
Eyes in the turret.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen. I wasn't sure where the damage was. Once you hit a certain level of damage, it's really hard to tell where the attacks are coming from. That's a shame. I kind of wanted to do that in one go, but This is a good trap, though.
Oh shit.
Mais qui ça y est? Yo gros gars là.
Get the fuck away from me.
Easy now. Listen. The main server, which gives me an idea. Get ready for some lead spin. Now, B.
Okay, that's not gonna work.
They're re-upping combat demon. Cooling vest. Take him out. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so first thing I gotta do is find out where the enemy is. So ping's not a bad option there.
We're almost home now. Sherman's cooling down. Port's wide open. Reloaded. Not bad. Not bad. Eyes in the turret.
So I don't think I'm going to be able to do anything to that. Oh! Friendly mode's going to solve my problems there.
They got nowhere to run. Focus fire on the open back.
Okay, let's find a place to cool.
Taking some heat there. Keep it up.
Okay, let's re...
Sherman's cooling down. Port's wide open.
Not again. Alright, lower end's good though.
God damn it. Help me get rid of the other. Come on!
Fun! Again, stuff like this, I do like it when the game goes very big. So I always feel a little bad when I need a second run on a like on a particular fight. But I'm not going to beat myself up over it. all night. Just most of the night. Okay, I can't start with a 7A. I could do a 1C 55-55. That looks like a trap too. Interesting. So there doesn't seem to... So if I try with the 1Cs, I don't have any 55s to work with. Maybe not. Okay, yeah, no. So if I do 55s... So the best I could do would be 1C, 1C, 55, 55, 7A. Okay, no, that works. The other challenge here is going to be just finding all the places where they dropped loot. Usually I just look for the X's on the ground. As you can see, the non-violent approach is not an option here. Archive conversation, Ilan Robichaud and Sylvie Patin. Tell me, do we wear bell-bottom jeans and flowers in our hair? No. Then why do we act like a fucking hippie commune? Your slider gave you access to our storage space in Eventide. Chill, it's a gesture of trust, keeping up appearances, yeah? 1 VDB for all for one, etc. It's all about appearances, you get it? Nothing about us without us. 1 VBD for all. Oh, we did that already. I have another question. Why are we all voodoo boys and not voodoo girls? Don't change the subject. Let your LH chooms... tell your LH chooms we may share storage, but if they want to borrow anything, they ask first. If Slider actually trusts you, he's either blind or stupid. I mean, he is blind, though. So we definitely read that one before. I think that's it loot-wise, although it would be nice to see if I can... No, there's one more. It would be nice to see if I can recover the gear that they tempted me with. It is 1 o'clock in the morning, cured. So I'll confess, I don't know if I have like the full stream time in me. But I will do my best. Well, it's mostly, the thing I'm most worried about is, I'm not so much worried about the late night. I am worried about the late night, all the stuff I need to do over the weekend, and, I can't remember if we're on daylight saving time. Yeah, there might also be a shift in the time. Anyways, the thing I'm more worried about is that if I deviate too far from my my bedtimes, I actually find it quite difficult to finish up in time, or like to get back on track on like for the Monday, and that tends to set in motion the kinds of problems that cause me to be late on stream. All right, order. Synapse burnout 340, short circuit overclocked 110, cyberware malfunction 50, weapon glitch 50, reboot optics 25, AGWE special order. Now, I did just collect a whole bunch of stuff, but I didn't see whether or not any of it was an improvement. So let's just take a quick look here. The only difference is that the effective range is different. I think it's fair to say no new pistols. Assault rifles, maybe. No. Melee? Looks like the tire iron is the answer. Don't think I'm quite ready to wear the anti-corrosive mask. Just doesn't look right. Denim work vest. Yeehaw. I do need to find better shoes at some point, but I'm pretty happy with this look here.
Bastards! You murder my people in cold blood.
They made their choice when they opened up at us.
Fuck me. Solomon Reed. I would be lying if I said I have missed you. And you? You brought death to Mama Bridget. Will that be your
Have a good
gift
one, Kieran.
for me as well?
Heard about me? How?
Me, my temple. We are one. My eyes.
Thank you,
and
Kieran. Have a good night.
ears are
Or morning, I
everywhere.
guess.
This isn't a temple. It's a malicious demon mill. And you're no priest. You're a two-bit bandit and murderer.
Murderer? Ha! It takes one to know one. So, what will it be? Will you put me down like you did that bitch Bridget?
If you can give me a second here, I'm getting a big encoding complaint. And I don't know. So I found sometimes with the kind of cutscenes, sometimes a reset does the trick. I'll try it one more time. And Twitch is complaining about my bitrate again. Man, today has been an adventure in terms of settings. Okay. While the upload is happening, I'm at 72%. So part of this is just a question of taking a look at the resource utilization. Like usually, if my GPU maxes out, it's like, okay, there's nothing I can do about that. It's not. I don't have exactly a new GPU, but the thing is that I very often found that it's something else going on when the settings max out, and it's not that hard for me to mess around with stuff. So things like this, like just making sure that the DLSS is on and things like that. One rant I was meaning to go on was some of the feelings about AI in gaming, because there's definitely, yeah, look at that. That's a world of difference.
Don't know you yet, Slider.
I am called many things. Wilkie Laguerre, the blind fury of the cyberspace. A dawn in the NUSA's fat ass. Take your pick.
Yeah, you forgot to add double murderer and all-around coward. We're here to negotiate, Slider. Cut a deal.
If one party is backed into a corner, it is not negotiation. It is extortion.
You say tomato, I say fucking deal with it, Slider. Now, cut the shit and do us the courtesy of hearing us out.
No love lost between you two, huh?
Those who speak to read have a strange habit of vanishing or committing suicide. But since you are partners, you must know that by now. Speak your piece.
Plane crash in Dogtown. Heard about it?
Plane? You mean the Space Force One. Everyone hear about that.
Need your help locating someone who was on board.
And I would surely oblige, were I not blind, wheelchair bound, and do not give zero fucks about that or you.
Come on, stop pretending like you got a choice.
Donc, Dimsa, what specifically do you want from me?
Just like that? No haggling?
I already know the score. The Langley men send a clear message.
Soon after SF-1 crashed, a runner was attacked while on the net. Attack severed our link. Need to locate her stat.
Ah, so you want one to investigate net traffic on the day of the crash?
Got a malfunctioning relic in my skull. That's how she made contact. That help any?
Perhaps. I will need a peek at this trinket in your head.
No, no chance, Slider.
It is this or nothing. You choose.
Keep your eyes on him, Reed.
I am blind, not deaf. Let us see what we have here. I see traces, bursts of data.
Hello, Oswin. How you doing?
The wake of someone's passage. Who dare they mad? This I do not believe. You out of your mind coming to me with this shit?
What you see?
The black wall. It bring only death.
Specific, Slider.
The woman. Did you know she used the black wall protocol to connect with you?
Fuck. Explains a lot, actually.
The woman? She is walking, ticking bomb. Megatons. She go boom. Everybody fucked in the ass. Every last one. Miwa Noir. It is a dam that protects us, the civilized world, from the strange bets of the cyber wilderness. If your two-leg bomb crack the dam down the middle, it will unleash a flood Wipe us off the map, just like Haiti.
Yeah, Oswin, I may not be on for that much longer. It's been a bit of an adventure to try and get things going, and I'm also struggling a little bit to manage work and stream, but I'm very happy to see you.
Oh no.
Let me just finish the dialogue here.
Rogue AIs will drown the net, and all of us with it.
To the AIs, past the black wall, you are no more than a cockroach, a ravet, a fragment of outdated code with no meaning. This why Netwatch flatline any who put integrity of black wall at risk. It's no laughing matter, my friend. It is a concern for the safety of all.
That's why you, my friend, need to restore V's connection to our girl.
You are out of your mind.
Well, now you're part of this madness, too. Welcome to the shit show.
Modi.
Non-negotiable, Slider. We need to find her. Besides, as long as she's out there, they catch her scent, they catch yours now, too. They'll set their wirehead freaks on to you and your people. So, you'll help me clean this up, cover all tracks, snip any threads leading back to you and consequently us. Do that, and we'll be square. You'll be off the FIA's hook, too.
Merde, it's my lucky day.
Ever done anything like this
Confirm
before?
the data transfer. What? Be the bridge between hosts using the Blackwall protocol. What the fuck do you think, eh? Confirm the data transfer before I change my mind.
Here we go.
Shit!
Is that so rude? How? Oh, right. Myers.
Working together now. With Alex, too.
I can hardly believe he's here, but it's a good thing.
So, whenever we linked up, talked, didn't mention you were tapping into the black wall.
I didn't. You didn't need to know that.
Risky as shit, that.
I'm putting my life on the line, not yours. Blackwall the Relic was the only way to reach you after SF1 was hacked. Listen, babe. Don't have much time. Hansen's people tracked me down after I rezzed the Chimera. I've been detained. I'm not in any danger. Not as long as I behave. Do what I'm told. I need your help.
Des.
Slider, what's going on?
Something's not right, man. Ah! Fucking Blackwall!
Black Sapphire V. Hampton's hosting a huge shindig there. Crash it on the sly. I'll find you. Make sure to tell Reed. I have a close set above me.
Fuck! Jack him out, Reed! Unplug Slider! Now!
It's over. Be short-circuited.
Looks like he couldn't handle the load.
Looks that way.
You don't fucking say. Your G-Man's a cold-blooded pragmatist. Was never gonna let Slider live.
So, Songbird, what's up with her?
Got the link back up, we spoke. She's fine, mostly. Needs our help, but she's fine, in one piece.
All right, give me the deets later. Come on, let's Delta out of here. Could be more of Slider's lackeys looking around.
Take it easy, Slider.
I really liked that sequence. One thing that I thought was one touch I like, and this is one thing that I actually think Cyberpunk does better than most, if not all of the games that I've seen do this. There's something really cool about the way that you communicate with Songbird during that sequence. So you get to see these sort of slow motion sequences of physical space. But obviously what you are doing, and this is hard to do, right? This is the sort of stuff that, movies very often need to figure out. Okay, so here's the thing. There's lots of crummy movies, there's lots of perfectly average movies, and they don't bother to think about this sort of stuff. But good ones will generally try to think about how do you communicate an idea in the story in a visual sense. So what you will have is you will have characters like V and Songbird having a conversation in cyberspace, right? It's digital communication. More importantly, it is two people who are expert hackers communicating with each other through the internet. And the one thing that we know about that kind of communication is that it is very fast, and not just that it's sort of two computers talking with each other, but it's people with coprocessors inside of them. So nobody is going to fault any game that plays that like a normal conversation. And of course, that is how that plays out, because that's the only way that you and I are ever going to be able to understand that sequence. It has to be presented in a way that makes sense to us. But what I do think this game gets a lot of credit for, or should get a lot of credit for, is the fact that it has this real world event, that it's not like that sequence in cyberspace when you meet Alt Cunningham, but that there is a real space and a cyberspace component. And real space is moving very slowly, and and cyberspace is moving at the normal speed for us. And in fact, I mean, it's not even that this is the first time this has been done, right? The really famous example of this is The Matrix, right? So you start off, you don't just start off, I guess actually the first one would be an example of bullet time, but you have this idea of these digital constructs which are capable of moving faster than people are able to attack them, right? So if you fire bullets at the agents just sort of seem to move around. You move like they do, is the line once Neo finally does his bullet time dodging. And obviously there's a whole technology that they developed for that movie, but that became such a memorable image that all sorts of media wound up sort of following through, and that's now part of sort of the grammar that we rely on for representing things digitally. And this is, again, the other thing that makes this hard to do is that there's never a clear answer on how to do this stuff in different scenarios. So what I mean by that would be, I really like the book The Man in the High Castle. It's one of my favorites. And like Philip K. Dick is always great. And I know a lot of people really like Philip K. Dick, and they particularly like him because of the movie adaptations of the things that he's done. But The Man in the High Castle is a pretty unique one, and not just because it's an alternate history. I think the one that Dick had been inspired by was Bring the Jubilee, which is sort of this this alternate history of the Civil War. What if the South had won? And in that case, he's he sort of took it in his own direction with World War II, but he did do some other things with it. So, and I don't want to go too far into the plot, because actually I think it's a really interesting I think that book goes to really interesting places, and it would be nice if some of you can have an opportunity to sort of experience some of what that book does on its own, and like in the way that kind of I got to experience, which was to kind of go in cold. But I believe he consulted the I Ching over the course of writing it. And there is this idea of there being another author of one of the books inside of the book. So if you know about the conditions under which Dick wrote it, then you have, you have this extra layer that you get out of reading that book. So I had always sort of imagined, because I worked in film for a little while, so, inevitably you kind of wonder, is like, well, what sort of adaptation would I do? If I was given the budget, what would I do? And I would certainly love to do The Man in the High Castle, the catch being, of course, that basically every movie producer wants, a Philip K. Dick property. He's got great twist endings. People love twist endings. And, let's be honest here, the adaptations of Philip K. Dick stories have been pretty good overall. You've got, Blade Runner is the most famous one. Total Recall did very well and was a good movie. You've got Minority Report. That is an excellent. That's one of Spielberg's best, in my opinion. You have, there's some that are maybe not so memorable, but I'd say for the most part, he's, compared to other authors' treatment on the silver screen, it's actually been pretty good. And then this Scanner Darkly, actually, that's one I should have mentioned before, especially for those of you like Johnny Silverhand. Scanner Darkly is a truly wonderful adaptation. But what's kind of funny about The Man in the High Castle, I've not seen that much of the TV series, but there's actually a couple of things that they do. So for me, when I got to the things that really I felt were most interesting about that book, and I thought about how to adapt them, I definitely went for a very art house movie kind of approach. And I think it would have been, whether it would have been a good movie or not, it definitely would have been something that it would have had a much narrower audience than, say, an Amazon Prime series. But there's a couple of changes that they make, one of them being the book that is written. So there's a book within a book. So for those of you not familiar with Man in the High Castle, this is an alternate history of World War II in which the Axis wins. The majority of the book sort of takes place in the occupied west coast of the United States, which is controlled by the Empire of Japan. But in the alternate history of the book, there is a book, a sort of a subversive book called The Grasshopper Lies Heavy. And it is an alternate history which describes a world in which the Allies won World War II. But most notably, it does not describe the world as we know it. It describes a world in which sort of the resurgent British Empire certainly the Cold War, I think, is essentially between the United States and Britain, that there's sort of this renewed British Empire, which maybe takes a more of an authoritarian turn. And Russia just doesn't really factor into global politics. So it's a neat idea, and the further you go through it, particularly if you like literature, I think Man in the High Castle does some really interesting stuff with that. But the TV series, it's a very simple choice that they make. They actually make it so that the Grasshopper Lies Heavy is film, and that just opens up a lot of different possibilities. And they're able to do some of the things in the story that the book does. And it's a very simple choice to do, but it's obviously different from the book, and it's a very conscious choice to represent it in a format that works for a TV series. So, again, just to be clear, that sequence with Songbird, I really like it. I don't necessarily think it's the kind of sequence you can only do in the context of a video game, right? You're stuck in place. You're seeing events happen. You get a little bit of interactivity in terms of the QuickTime events and the dialogue. But for the most part, I'm not really sure that that's a sequence that needs to be, that's experienced in a way that's different from watching a movie. But first of all, it's really impressive to watch. And again, number two, I really like this idea that rather than just rely on the usual way of representing that moment, you have two high quality hackers with coprocessors communicating at the speed of machines, not communicating at the speed of people. Because I tend to like that stuff just because, again, it's staying true to the setting, and it lends a degree of authenticity to something that's obviously completely made up and doesn't exist in the real world. I know I'm spending too much time talking about it, but I figure if I'm going to complain about the typos, I can at least praise the game when it does something I like. Okay, Skylight, Rising Stars of the Net. The criminal underworld has many... sorry, just 1 second here. Criminal underworld has many legends, but few are more mysterious than the legendary net jockeys. In recent year, no netrunner gained more notoriety than Skylight, the rising star of the hacker underground. Skylight is allegedly responsible for at least a dozen cyber attacks on net's best secured... I would imagine it's the net, but best secured servers, stealing data from such megacorps as Petrochem, Zetatech, and Kiroshi. The latest attack on Biotechnica, resulting in theft and subsequent auctioning of the company's sensitive data, is also attributed to Skylight. Who is this rising star of cybercrime? All we know is their alias. Nobody knows their background, gender, or even whether it is a single person or some sort of netrunner collective. One thing's certain, however, we'll be hearing about their daring attacks and risky break-ins in the future. How long can they keep up with this, though? As the saying goes, the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And they have been burning so very, very brightly. Very direct Blade Runner reference there. I can't tag everyone, unfortunately. Well, maybe I can now. Okay, so I wasn't crouched. That's going to be a problem, but... Okay, this is my opportunity. Okay, now he's actually going to shrug me off if I... Okay, so he's going to see the body, but... Damn it. So the best I can hope for here is just to thin out the weak ones. Oh man, if Solomon takes out the big guys... Never mind.
maintenant. Fais-moi figure. Hein?
All right, fair enough. The problem is I don't have eyes on the enemy, so...
They're done for. That's all of them.
More of the precious loot. Anyways, Oswin, I should have asked. So I know you were doing Helldivers earlier. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to see that because you really do sell that game well. But have you played Cyberpunk before? I don't know if this is your kind of thing or not, but you tend to surprise me with your taste in games in a positive way. So I'm slightly curious. I try where I can to try and talk about some of the setting stuff in this, but I've been struggling to keep the right balance of topics of conversation and progress in the game. So. Okay. You have not. It's on your list, so I'm interested to see how you play. Definitely, I feel like there's a few games which they've taken as points of reference for this. So I don't see a lot of people comparing it to... I don't see a lot of people comparing it to Grand Theft Auto, but I really do feel that there is a certain debt that the game owes Grand Theft Auto. In terms of the interaction, it's definitely a first-person RPG in sort of the Bethesda mold, so like a Skyrim or a Fallout or Starfield. But it is its own thing, and definitely I'd say the combat element is
find a quiet corner.
A bit more developed than what you might see in some of the Bethesda ones. We're currently playing the DLC Phantom Liberty, which is a really good sort of spy thriller. There are lots of pew-pew. If you want, so one of the other references, I do feel that they try, probably more so at the start of the project than the finish, but I do think they wanted to follow the steps of Deus Ex in terms of giving the player some options in terms of how to approach it. Let's see.
Seem glad that you and I have teamed up.
Good. It means she trusts you. Anything else?
Song needs our help, Reed. Hansen's nabbed her, holding her, for reasons.
God damn it. I can't imagine any worse news than that.
Black Sapphire. Said Hansen's throwing a big bash there. We get in, she'll find us. Any idea what and where the Sapphire is?
Over there. See the taller of the two scrapers? Next to the one with the big-ass screen. That's the Black Sapphire. A would-be hotel ended up a failed multi-billion Eddie investment. Hansen's fortress, smack in the middle of Dogtown. We can't just barge in. Doubt we have anyone on the inside or affiliated who could crack open a door either. Alex and I will pull some strings, run our contacts. You do the same. You know, think of who you know around here. Maybe it won't happen on an idea, find a way.
No local fixer, goes by Mr. Hands. Could ring him.
Do it. We'll be in touch.
All right, so I get the option of calling Mr. Hands, but I wonder if maybe there's something else I can do in between. So get it together, call Mr. Hands. Your missing Ubernet runner got snared by Dogtown's head honcho. What a lovely plot twist. Don't know how you want to get into the Black Sapphire or even if it's possible, but that's not the thing I worry about. What does worry me is that you're going to do what you're going to do once you get inside. Thoughts? Heavy Hearts, a huge neon pyramid in the heart of Dogtown. The Heavy Hearts Club was supposed to be a postcard highlight for revitalized Pacifica, but now plays home to the largest nightclub in Kurt Hansen's domain. The deals with the highest stakes are struck under Hansen's watchful eye in the Black Sapphire or the Stadium. Everything else is settled here. The Heavy Hearts has established itself as the go-to meeting place where important players can discuss side deals during their stay in Dogtown. Maybe you ordered a dozen tanks from Hansen at the Stadium, but you'd like to land an ultra-rare ray field before leaving Night City. Maybe you're in town to have Kurt smuggle a dozen crates of assault rifles to Myanmar, but there's also a shipment of contraband Zetatech cyberware burning a hole in your pocket. In such cases, be sure to make a stop at the Heavy Hearts before going on your merry way. Of course, maybe you're not a corpo politician or dirty cop looking to make a deal at all. Maybe you just want to dance the night away without worrying of waking up dead in a ditch the next morning. The Heavy Hearts Club has it all. Black Sapphire. Hasley, Ferris, and Skiv began the construction of this colossus in 2061, intending to erect Night City's most impressive hotel to date. However, along with the rest of Pacifica's redevelopment, the project took a fatal nosedive. Following the end of the Unification War, Kurt Hansen laid claim to the half-finished hotel as his new base of operations. Today, the Black Sapphire serves as the shining star around which all of Dogtown revolves. It stands 99 stories tall with a luxury club, casino, and AV landing pads at the top. The ground floor contains warehouses and barracks for Barghast soldiers. Everything in between remains a matter of speculation. A prison for VIPs held at ransom, a zoo for endangered animals that Hansen serves to dinner guests at lavish parties, a server room that puts Arasaka's towers to shame. It's no surprise that the rumors that circle the Black Sapphire grow more and more far-fetched every year. Yet one fact is undeniable. The Black Sapphire is Hansen's pride and joy. It is an impenetrable fortress, a palace where he can play King of Dogtown and host dignitaries from the world over, but especially the who's who of Night City's political and criminal landscape. And we already talked about Mr. Hands, so looks like we're talking to him no matter what.
Hands, need a favor.
Straight to biz. I like it.
Aiming to go to an upcoming shindig at the Black Sapphire.
Lusting to dance with the devil. V, the place is inaccessible and treacherous in equal parts. You cannot simply walk in uninvited as opposed to, say, Konpeki Plaza.
Surely there's some way in.
I'll need to twist an arm or a leg. Thanks to you, I have a veritable buffet of limbs to choose from.
So, doable, you think?
You helped to solidify my position in Dogtown. I'm happy to return the favor. We'll conclude this in person. I'll need some hours. Meet me at the Heavy Hearts.
Thanks, Hands.
Okay, so when it says wait a few hours, I usually go and do something else. I'm going to do one of the silly events. Now, I must apologize, Oswin, because you were asking about different options to doing things. This is a pure combat item, which is the result of me... basically the result of me doing a bunch of boxing matches. But yeah, sometimes there's some fun and silly things in the game, and we're about to do it. But yeah, the thing that you were asking about, like, you know, is there a lot of shooting or that? I do believe there are a few moments in the game where combat is more or less unavoidable, or at the very least, it's one of the more direct ways of going. And I mean, in this setting, it makes sense. One of the things that I remember, or not remember, but one of the things I know about the tabletop game, because I've read some of the rule books for it, combat is quite lethal in that game. So you can kind of see me in some of these combat encounters sort of running in like the Terminator. And even then, like, I do take quite a bit of damage. It definitely feels like the developers of Cyberpunk, Mike Pondsmith and R. Telsorian Games, really put a lot of effort into modeling combat, both in terms of damage, but also how people like miss. It really does feel like they did quite a bit of work to make sure that the numbers were correct. And it's notable, right? Because again, I keep making these movie analogies, but I think actually a good comparison here would be a film like John Wick. It's like when you look at John Wick, it's not like he's not playing that game like a lot of people, or not playing that game. He's not engaging in combat the way that a lot of people can in video games, where like you have a pistol and it's effectively like having, you know, a sniper rifle in the hands of, you know, an absolute top tier marksman with a, you know, with a spotter. Very often, the pistol is almost used as like this melee weapon. And they're great. Like, they're absolutely great scenes. I've only seen the first 3. And I'll be honest with you, I actually think the first one is probably the best one. But, yeah, when you kind of take a look at the combat tables and how lethal combat is, but also in terms of just roughly how often people of certain points of skill are able to hit, it really does feel like that was a particular point of interest for them, and that they wanted to get a pretty accurate read on it. But I mean, again, you're playing a criminal in this very in sort of a dystopian future. You've chosen to sort of turn your back on comfort, or, you know, being in the service of, you know, a corporation or other interests. You live life on the edge. That is the whole point. That's why the term edge runner exists. And that means taking on all of the danger that might entail. And so with that in mind, it's difficult to look at a setting like that and say, okay, so we're never going to put the character in danger, right? There are going to be some points where you need to, to perform some kind of violent act to achieve your goals. But you have a few different ways of achieving that. And yes, you do have stealthy approaches which don't involve trying to get headshots on people. All right, Uzab, quite the name. Don't know why, but the sound of it gets creepy circus music stuck in my head. Maybe this dude was an acrobat or a lion tamer or some shit. Never know in this city, and we won't know until we call him and find out. There's going to be a little bit of lag here, but...
It's V. Heard you had a gig for me.
You heard right. I need a driver.
So call a cab then.
I don't like cabs. They have a bad habit of bolting when things get dicey. Listen, I'm a straight shooter, so let me cut right to the chase. I heard you're the best in town. Thing is, I like working with the best. And I know the best don't come cheap. I'm not gonna get into the nuts and bolts, cause if what they say about you is true, you can handle anything. So let's get this settled.
Finish this another time.
Boring conversation anyway. Guys have got absolutely deadly accuracy. Damn it. Yes, I didn't want to get the drop on them for the delivery, because that was too good of an opportunity to pass up. But I didn't think that they'd be shooting through the cover. Or I guess it wasn't cover, but you know what I mean. Oh, do I have to call Mr. Hands again? All right.
Hands, need a favor.
Straight to biz. I like it.
Aiming to go to an upcoming shindig at the Black Sapphire.
Lusting to dance with the devil. V, the place is inaccessible and treacherous in equal parts. You cannot simply walk in uninvited as opposed to, say, Konpeki Plaza.
Surely there's some way in.
I'll need to twist an arm or a leg. Thanks to you, I have a veritable buffet of limbs to choose from.
So, doable, you think?
You helped to solidify my position in Dogtown. I'm happy to return the favor. We'll conclude this in person. I'll need some hours. Meet me at the Heavy Hearts.
Thanks, Hands.
So I'll try and give you an example of a different approach to a problem here. So I marked up the enemies. Now this skull is a problem because they're a particularly difficult kind of enemy. Now, one of the things I would normally want to do in this situation would be to try and find something to distract an enemy with. And there doesn't seem to be any electronics around in the area, so I'm not able to make noise that I would normally rely on. Maybe Reed tells me Slider's a flatline. What happened there? Occupational hazard, linking up with Songbird, flash fried his brain. Doubt he's worth any tears of yours. A guy like that, bound to end that way eventually. But listen to you, already sound like a cold-blooded agency vet, like the second coming of Reed. Speaking of, doesn't seem the old wolf has changed his ways. Jury's still out on whether that's a good or a bad thing, judging by our history. Let me give you one piece of advice, V. Don't look for a friend in Reed. Not him or anyone at the agency. We're a bad influence. Appreciate the warning, but one or two new bad influences in my life isn't going to tip the scales much. Okay, so my alternative here is going to be to try and sneak up on one of them. Nope, that's not going to work either. Oh, looks like I can actually do a system collapse. I wasn't thinking that would be possible. Okay, so they're tracing me as a result of that. Oh, you're kidding me. So that's me screwing up the stealth. But I still could use cyberware. Okay, they want to glitch me. Good lord. My aim could use some work. Okay, can't short circuit.
He's killing us all!
How you doing, Baron Snugs? Everybody asks me about builds. I'm not really doing any build. I'm just playing the game and using whatever seems to work. So yeah, it started reasonably well. I didn't get the guy who was investigating his ally fast enough. We're trying to find a way inside, but not looking good. Hansen's an old dog, well-trained and experienced. Heavy security presence, all ins and outs, locked up tight. Building's a damn monolith. No ideas as of yet. I'll keep trying with hands, keep you posted. Archive conversation, Vasilev Komarov and Dina Romanova. Well, on its way. Should arrive any minute now. All right, see it. Vargas definitely gave their okay, right? I don't feel like a firefight with them right now. We bought the gear off them. It's all arranged. Grab the gear and get to Katya. Oh, that's interesting. So I didn't have to unlock this one. One of the things that may also interest you too, Oswin, I actually don't want to go too far in some of the specific plot details that will cover this, but you have a device in your head known as the Relic, and it is very clear that your so this relic has a piece of code on it that is effectively wiping your mind. So you have this opportunity, you try and take it, things go wrong, and you wind up with this device that is erasing your mind. And one of the things that I liked, I know we've talked about this quite a bit, is that there's actually a specific moment. There's a couple of cases where I felt the game was going to get kind of tacky. I'm a bit of I don't know. I think I'm just too shy to like see romance stuff in games most of the time. But this game actually does sort of lean into the characters dealing with mortality, and you have a few options in terms of how you react to this information. And I know some of our conversations has definitely indicated to me that this might be part of the plot that you like. Now, unfortunately, some of those major bits we've already covered inside of the game, but I haven't played the game to the end, so I suspect that we will continue to engage with it. And there are some ideas in this game actually that like there are echoes of it. So, for instance, one of the major figures in the cyberpunk setting is a man named Saburo Arasaka, and I mean his background is he's a fighter pilot in World War II at one point. So just to give you an idea of this person's age, and he controls the most powerful mega corporation in the world. In fact, effectively, Arasaka is this, generational effort to beat the Americans at their own game, and he largely sees this as a continuation of the conflict with the States. So, a figure known as the Emperor, and a major influence in the setting. And there is this idea that the relic is in fact part of his long-term plan. So one of the things that Arasaka Industries invests heavily in is longevity. And again, you have this, the patriarch of the Arasaka family isn't willing to sort of give up power, has conflict with his son. But what's also interesting is there is a personality that is on the relic, and I'll leave that. It probably means a little bit more to people who know the setting. But there is a consciousness on the relic, which is the thing that's erasing your personality and sort of taking over. So I think there is something interesting. Again, I don't want to give away too much of the plot with you, but because of the conversations that we've been having, I think there is something very interesting about this idea of these legends and people who can't let go. That are trying to have an influence on the world well past what would be a natural end to that, and whether or not it is right to let sort of the next generation take over. So again, I don't want to suggest that this is permeating everything inside of the game, but as far as themes are concerned, there's definitely some stuff that we've talked about that seems to be present inside of the game. This seems to remind you of that existential question we discussed when you were playing Soma. Well, I mean, again, like any good science fiction is going to be touching on these ideas. And I think the thing is that Cyberpunk 2077 is perfectly good mainstream entertainment. But I do not think that the quotes from the Iliad, and specifically the ones about Achilles and his mortality and his statement, his decision as to whether or not he will be a legend or not, and the fact that that has that is an echo of something that Dexter Deshawn says to you for your first job. I don't think that stuff is coincidental. I think there's a very specific choice being made in terms of presenting these ideas and these questions to the player. So, you know, you can tell a weird story about a consciousness that is overwriting you, you know, and just keep that at a surface level. Or, you know, you can use this as an opportunity to, you know, to talk about mortality and to talk about, I mean, again, even in the setting with the cyberpunk setting, right? You have this idea of mega corporations that are taking over or have taken over the world. And one of the things, so it's worth thinking for a moment, like, why do we think that's a bad thing, right? And some people will say about concentration of power. Some people will say, you know, wealth inequality or that. But like the thing about the wealth inequality is that you can conceive of a world in which there is a very small number, or maybe just one company that does everything, and you know, arranges things in such a way that people are, you know, have a higher standard of living than they do today, right? So like you almost can imagine, like, so let's say you're really into the idea of central planners, like you love the idea of communism, and you just think like, you know, technology's so good now, we just need to hook it up to ChatGPT and it'll be able to distribute all of the goods the appropriate way. I don't believe this, right? But like this is, you can see how someone would make this argument. Well, if you think that's okay, really the only difference between this idea that I've described is the idea of whether it's a privately owned enterprise or if it's one that's run by a business, right? And I mean, again, that is like, you know, communism doesn't exist, right? It's supposed to be that magical end state that society eventually reaches after socialism, right? But, you know, so capitalism is a question, you know, who owns the means of production, and socialism is, you know, the government owns it, right? That's why when you think of socialist countries, that everything is the people such and such, right? The government holds it in trust for the people. And then that, you know, communism is that paradise without class or you know, any of that nonsense. And then, you know, calling something communist is just a branding exercise, right? We've achieved the utopia immediately. We don't need to worry about any of those intermediate steps. So, but there is something kind of interesting to me, at least, about the game's concerns for mortality and longevity, because there is something also very interesting about the idea of the corporation. So you know, legally there's the idea of the corporation as a person. And there was a critique from a UBC professor. The film was called The Corporation. Essentially what they say, it's like, if the corporation is a person, then we diagnose this person as a psychopath. And like, obviously it's not a film that's super happy with capitalism. And again, I also don't mean to be a corporate apologist, right? There are definitely things that companies have done that are not good. And I do not necessarily like the behavior of, you know, of these large companies. But again, if you're going to do a dystopia and you say that there's only a few companies working, and if, you know, I've given you this alternative which says, well, you know, this kind of sounds just like the sort of ideal world that people who are maybe opposed to capitalism or opposed to, you know, a private or free market solution, you know, there are ways that you can model that. That, you know, under private ownership, that sort of say, well, you know, if this is your ideal, then here we go. So the idea here is to say, it's like, why is it so bad that the world is the way that it is in Cyberpunk? And to me, one of the big ones is that when you do not have competition, when you have these companies with undue influence over seemingly everything, this is what leads to stagnation. That ultimately the world that we see in Cyberpunk, despite the fact that it is technologically more advanced, the standard of living is less than in 2024, or the 1980s, 1990s when the series was originally conceived. And you can say there's any number of reasons for that. Maybe it's the wars, maybe it's government corruption, whatever the case may be. But if you think about the reasons why today we have organizations like the FTC or the Competition Bureau, and why you have this idea of companies being expected to not to behave monopolistically, to behave in a way that doesn't impede competition, it is because we recognize that as an engine of prosperity. It is the fact that these companies are competing with each other that makes sure that the prices go down in real terms, which either means the products are getting better or the nominal prices are going down. And very often it's a combination of the two, right? Consider the cost of a computer in the 1980s and the cost of a computer today. The computer does, considerably more. And in real terms, I imagine a computer in the 1980s would probably cost something like $6,000 today. Now, there's computers you can buy for $6,000 today, but they're certainly far more capable than anything that that money would buy you at the time that this was released. So to me, one of the things about this is because the world is carved up with these very large very large businesses that don't necessarily feel a need to compete with each other. They have sort of their fiefdoms. And again, I don't mean to suggest there's no competition. Obviously, there's the corporate wars and things like that. But to me, you again have this idea of stagnation, of stasis, this thing that is attempting to preserve its position at all costs. And this leads to a lack of dynamism in the economy. And as a result, it's, you have less, you have a lower standard of living in addition to, so it's not, in this case here, it's not just that the pie is more unevenly distributed, but it is actually a smaller pie than what we would consider today. And again, it's not the thing that I think people first think of in terms of Cyberpunk, but the more I play the game and the more I read about the environment, the more I am absolutely convinced that it is just a poorer world overall. But that because the people with the greatest influence in that world don't necessarily feel the effects of that. One of the things that they're just simply trying to do is preserve the state, as opposed to one in which they potentially would be more wealthy themselves. But it's just easier to sort of maintain their position, or maybe they just happen to like their privileged position in the world. So, well, this is, I mean, that it can, yes, and I mean there are countries which have a greater disparity in terms of wealth, that can in fact grow. That's not really where I'm going with that. What I'm really focusing more on is this idea that because I'm talking about mortality and because I'm talking about these major characters from two totally different angles, but essentially that want to preserve themselves at all costs, you can see the megacorps of the setting being entities that are equally stagnant, being things that sort of want to perpetuate themselves, but well past the point where they're contributing anything.
It's V. Heard you had a gig for me.
You heard right. I need a driver.
So call a cab then.
I don't like cabs. They have a bad habit of bolting when things get dicey. Listen, I'm a straight shooter, so let me cut right to the chase. I heard you're the best in town. Thing is, I like working with the best. And I know the best don't come cheap. I'm not gonna get into the nuts and bolts, cause if what they say about you is true, you can handle anything. So let's get this settled. You got what it takes? Or are they wrong about you?
All right, I'm in.
Japantown, then. By the market entrance. Give a few honks and I'll stroll up. Later, V.
I didn't see the frog before. I like that. All right, let's find Uzo Bozo. Japantown, given its popularity with tourists, it's no wonder Japantown feels like it's constantly buzzing with life. Crowds occupy the local bars, upscale restaurants, arcades, the famous Cherry Blossom Market, and especially the Shinto Shrine that's a must-see if you're in the area. Every corner holds a luxurious backdrop for a perfect photo op. Japantown doesn't disappoint. So what's the catch, you might ask? Japantown can be expensive, especially its nighttime attractions. Corpo with fat cred ships come here to play hard after a hard day's work, with cash liquid tourists right beside them. Local brain dance clubs, casinos, and bars are never short on customers. Just watch out for the tiger claws. They rule Japantown. Usopp, quite the name. Don't know why. Oh, right, we've already read this. Oswin, I can always rely on Oswin to come up with a much better analogy from biology. I kind of feel like I should stop by the university and find a good undergrad biology textbook, because you're usually spot on in the material that you introduce, and I should come prepared. But no, that's actually a really good way of putting it, Oswin. I mean, in fact, the reason why I like that that cancer analogy is because it is, like, what I like about it is that the cancer doesn't see itself as a bad guy, and in some senses, you can see cancer as being like something we like about the body, just being twisted towards a very negative end. So, you know, like it's one of these things we try to prevent and treat. And you can kind of see I really want to steal that car, but I also want to get to the Usopp Bozo one. Or cancer's just trying to survive and grow. Yeah, that's another way of putting it. But like, in these senses here, right, like you can see how if you're talking about the megacorps in the cyberpunk setting, you know, they are operating, you know, according to the rules that they want. Maybe they're sort of manipulating things at the edges. You know, in some senses, we would never want to say, you know, we don't want wealth creation. We don't want people, you know, providing goods and services that we need. And yet it is very clear that, you know, the existence of Arasaka and Militech and, you know, Kuroshi and Petrochem, EBM, all of these different companies have created this really terrible set of circumstances. And, you know, it's through things like either, you know, regulatory capture or just the complete dismantling of, you know, of regulation, because in some cases the governments effectively don't work. I wish you knew how accurate your analogy was to cancer biology. I have a little bit because my mom died of cancer, so I know a little bit more than maybe I think a layperson might want to. But I also appreciate that I am a tourist on these sorts of things, so I am glad that the analogy is fitting. Although I think, in fairness, the cancer analogy is your analogy, and I'm just trying to pick up. I'm trying to just pick up the. Oh, you're kidding me. Okay, the main benefits of what you're saying.
Hey, you're V, yes?
Oh, fuck.
You didn't answer my question.
There's, something on your face.
The grenade.
Can I ask why? You have a juggling accident or something?
Not cool. You ask personal questions and yet you haven't even introduced yourself. You are V, correct?
Yeah, that's me.
Good. Then let's go.
Where to?
Little China. I have a craving for Kung Pao chicken. Extra spicy.
They should put
Does
it.
it bother you?
What?
The grenade. You know, the one on your face.
You get used to it. I just gotta be careful not to pull the pin when I want to pick my nose.
I was gonna make that joke actually. It's like if you drive too long, he's gonna pick his nose and you lose your car.
Nice out here. A lot of stuff has changed.
Where you from?
Brazil. You know, down in South.
I know where Brazil is.
You never know with you gringos.
So I think Brazil was where Johnny Silverhand. I believe that was where Johnny Silverhand fought.
Who hasn't?
Got any friends in there?
No, why?
Just asking. Can't help being curious.
Some kind of pervert?
So I cannot find.
What are you blind?
Like a glove?
This is the place. Wait for me here and keep the engine running.
Came all this way to get takeout.
You could say that.
I guess technically it's only still International Women's Day on the West Coast, but belated happy International Women's Day to the international women.
What the fuck was that? You got grenades up your ass too?
This ain't a good time to dig around, eh? Want a taste of this, assholes? You're not the masters of your memories, for your eyes do not belong to you, or rather, not only to you.
Where's the punk rocker that people are mentioning?
Not bad, right?
International
Would've been
women,
even
Oswin.
better if you told me what you were planning from the get-go.
It's true what they say. You're good. Really fucking good. Got a stick up your ass, though. This is where we part ways. Good luck, V. And, relax a bit, okay?
Now, are you gonna tell me about the grenade?
Oh, that. My brother ripped it off during a fight.
with pliers.
Ooh, one happy family.
You don't know the half of it. I could have chipped another one, but I don't know. I think this matches my style more.
Uh-huh.
Besides, it's a real icebreaker with the ladies. Got any powder for my nose?
And does it work?
Not really.
What about my payment?
What about it? Here, like I said before, the best don't come cheap. Take care, V. And hey, keep your nose to the ground.
So this is actually not a bad example of the kind of weirdness that comes up in the Cyberpunk setting. So one of the things that would have been really cool if they could fit it in the game, and I mean, you know, there's all sorts of reasons this stuff may not work out, but I think one of the things that's kind of fun in the Cyberpunk setting is the idea of the poser gangs. So you'd have these gangs walking around, like they're basically like cosplayers, but they are like proper gangs. Like they are dangerous, and if you cross them, you'll be in trouble. Let me just bring up a list, because there's one I remember in particular, but I'll save that for the last of the list. Let me see if I can see here. So like I remember there was one called the Kennedys, where it would be like, you know, there'd be John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, there'd be Marilyn Monroe. Oh, here's one, the Edisons. Let's see what this one is. A poser gang based on famous inventors, ingenious and sadistic. They are second only to the brainiacs in the construction of death traps. They can be found in the Eastern Residential District. The Elvises. The Elvises are a poser gang in Cyberpunk 2020. They are featured in Nashville. The Elvises are one of the most notorious poser gang. Oops, sorry. Let me... I'm getting this from fandom, unfortunately, so there's about 20 gigabytes of advertising for every 2 sentences. The Elvises are one of the most notorious poser gangs in the U.S. Born during the collapse, the Elvises rapidly became the dominant force in Nashville. They seized Graceland by force in early 2008 and have occupied it ever since. It is the seat of their leader, the King. No one knows the King's real identity, but the gang accepts him as Elvis's prophet chapels throughout Memphis. Although the true king is dead now, the Elvises do claim to have conclusive proof that he lived until 2002. The Elvises have chapters in all the major cities of the world. Each chapter has its own chapel, but all practice the same rites, and members are not fully consecrated until they have made a pilgrimage to Graceland. The gang members pose as Elvis at all stages of his life, each gang member suiting his own tastes. Rumors of a schism between the young Elvises and the old Elvises are believed to have been false. Let's take a look here. The primetime players. Oh, poser gang in Cyberpunk Red, so they didn't get rid of them in the new version. So what's this one? Poser gang that uses biosculpting to look like members of old sitcoms and TV shows from bygone eras. They are an extended family gang that protects the neighborhood and longs for a bygone time. The players are broken up into a number of different factions based on the shows they are inspired by. They are territorial and fiercely protective of their own members. So that actually Pokemon, that's a good one. So the one I like, this is the one that I know the most, the Gilligans. Yeah, so the Brady Bunch is in fact a poser gang as well. Brady, Bradibunch. So I'll read that one. The Brady Bunch is one of the many gangs in Night City. The Bunch is a poser gang who uses biosculpting to look like members of an old sitcom, a small-time family poser gang. The older, quote, adult members run the gang, their territory, and they protect the runaway children, and children, quote unquote, of the gang, who steal and compete for family support. Membership consists of runaway or orphan children. Extended families are territorial and even more protective of their members. But the one I was thinking of that I wanted to say... Oh, hang on. I just saw one called the Trekkies. The Trekkies are a poser gang in which members act as characters from the Star Trek universe. A diverse group, the Trekkies have techs that create and construct extensive amounts of equipment for the gang. Phaser microwaves, radar infrared scanners appearing as tricorders, and so on. Their gang headquarters is fully equipped as a starship, including exterior laser weapons and tech inside. Some members are enhanced with cybernetics or nanotech. The gang has a high number of techs who produce exotic-looking weapons. Although generally well behaved, they are certain to fight. But yeah, I do want to get on with it. So the Gilligans. The Gilligans are one of the many gangs in Night City, a militant gay poser gang now based in Lake Park after being pushed out of the marina by the Wild Things. They are based on the TV sitcom of the same name. Skippers are the leaders, professors are the techs, Gilligans are the initiates, Gingers and Mariannes are transgender. So, and again, a lot of this stuff doesn't seem to appear in some of the newer books, but this is part of the setting, and it does. I wasn't aware that there were poser gangs referred to in Red, so that was some news to me. But some of this stuff gets a bit silly, and it works because there is a whole lot of attitude present in Cyberpunk. But this is actually an example, just when we're talking about adapting and how you wind up telling a story like this. Could you imagine something like the Gilligans appearing in Cyberpunk 2077? The tone is just so different from everything else that's present inside of the game here. Now, in the context of a tabletop role-playing game, you can have all of the grimness of the Cyberpunk setting and still have something like the poser gang, because everybody sort of understands how that fits inside of the world. But if you're playing a video game and you're sort of like, okay, we've got the badass voodoo boys and we got the badass, Valentinos, and we've got the badass Tiger Claws, and, all of a sudden you have the Gilligans and you need to explain what Gilligan's Island is to the audience. And it's like, and why are they all gay? And why are they, at this point, you've now got a few layers that you need to explain to do one small part of Night City. But there's a cost to that, right? Because it is like, a lot of this is reflecting the relationship between the media and the idea of nostalgia. Like there is a purpose to this stuff, right? So it is sometimes a shame, but then you have people with like grenades in their face, and that's a little bit of a hint in terms of just how weird some of this stuff gets, right? It's not always just mirror shades and like monofilament wire. But yeah, obviously there is something that's sort of missed in the setting. Do I want to do epistrophe? I guess it's too late to visit Claire. What time is it? Yeah, 11 o'clock at night. Let's find the cabin in the Badlands. No promise that'll finish it, but... And it turns out E was the... Oh, hang on. Read recon. What don't they have? Minotaurs, wyverns, exoskeletons, snipers perched in watchtowers. Either we get some ironclad intel or the conventional way in is out. Chill, I'll find us something. What's the old expression? This ain't my first trespass of a max security hotel. Nope, I can steal a car. I'm stealing the car.
Great! Now grab the delivery cords and drive.
I went the wrong way. Hopefully this isn't timed. Okay, it does give me directions. I'm just gonna move forward until I can figure things out. It's a very good looking game.
Shit, that's someone on your ass.
I'll wait till I see the red dots. Generally, okay. No, they're on a bike. I might just be able to smack into them, but But yeah, so this is a little bit of sort of what I'm talking about when I say that. Why can't I use my... There we go. There we go. But this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say that I feel like... are you kidding me? Where's the other one? All right. That Grand Theft Auto is kind of an influence here. Good lord, they really like throwing people at me.
Final stretch, now just lose the company.
Sorry about that. Don't tell the police. Okay. I could probably give the cops a slip, but... There we go.
I got friends.
Oh yeah, I knew I'd pick the right merc for the gig. My man will take care of the rest.
Yeah, you'll get a fortune for this, I'm sure.
Point, your reward. Just don't spend it all on XPDs and glitter.
Regina Jones, Cyber Psycho sighting, Demons of War. Hey V, the NCPD got a call about a Cyber Psycho. Actually sent a patrol this time. Been a few hours and no report back. Either those cops got scared and bounced, or... Anyway, check it out for me. Be much appreciated. If he zeroed the badges, then there's no way in hell Max Tack is going to bring him in alive. We're the best chance he's got at getting out of this in one piece. All right. So I did see a new, just another store. Oh, there we go. Okay, so looks like there is a... Oh, that's interesting. So it wants me to go here, even though this is technically the closer one. These are interesting stories for sure. I'm just maybe not sure this is the best use of my time. I have actually also gone a bit later than I was expecting, and it's almost 2:30 in the morning. So while I do apologize, I know I spent a lot of time talking about some of the interesting places this story goes, and I didn't really get a chance to show it. I think I'm going to have to wrap it up here, but this is going to be my usual Friday game for the next little while. So our focus is going to be on Phantom Liberty, because I just happen to like me a good old spy story. But I think I'm going to have to call it... I think I'm going to have to call it here. Although, maybe to give some evidence that there are some of the things we were talking about. If I go to my... Was it character? Right. So here are the some of the different characteristics. Fame. Everybody's got a job lined up for you because they know you're the one to do it. Clients who require a pro's touch drop your name to fixers. Those fixers are happy to oblige and use you to bump their client's fee. A fame tax, they call it. Ka-ching. Everybody's a winner. That's the biz of becoming a brand, baby. So 88% on that. Synergy. Looks like Johnny finally took it down a notch. Is it because his personality is merging with yours, or because he's starting to take a liking to you? Maybe you're both so intertwined that it's not even a question of friendship, but about accepting that you're two people in one. And respite. Rest a sec. Catch your breath. You can't keep up at your current pace. But now that you've seized the opportunity, don't let it slip through your fingers. You've landed square in the middle of a geopolitical clusterfuck on a scale larger than you ever would have imagined. Whether running this gauntlet will be worth it in the end, that remains to be seen. So we have a few different measures. I think this is actually the relic measure, which I haven't seen this description before, but then again, this very clearly is related to Phantom Liberty. But anyway, some of these things sort of measure how much of yourself is left, which I think is kind of neat. But that's all stuff we'll deal with later. By the way, as I'm sure a few of you noticed, Oswald Meow is a thoughtful and interesting person. So if you weren't there for the earlier shout out, definitely recommend this broadcaster. Was doing Helldivers today, but I've actually been really enjoying her run through Disco Elysium. It's a lot of fun to watch. But anyways, I am going to record some videos over the weekend for Book of Hours. I'm sorry for the bumpiness on this week's Book of Hours videos. Is kind of dealing with the consequences of being sick. I'm going to try and get everything squared away for this weekend, and my feeling is that if I can do that, I can take a real proper shot at making sure that everything else gets done kind of on time, which means starting the stream on time as well. But of course, I'm still trying to make the work and the stream stuff all work together. So again, I apologize if it doesn't turn out. I am conscious of the fact that people have options in terms of entertainment, and that if I don't show up on time, you know, I'm breaking my part of the agreement. But on the other hand, we do also need to maintain the things that we value that aren't video games. So I will do my best to find the balance. Now, I don't have a whole lot of people to host tonight. Revive Snow is doing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I would normally host them tonight, but it's been a little while since I've hosted Kilgore Trout. who is currently doing L.A. Noir, or La Noire, the Black, right beside Rouge One. So, for the Pokemon fans, I'm gonna shout out Revive Snow to you. I'm gonna raid Kilgore. Like I said, it's just because it's been a while, and L.A. Noire is a fun game to watch. But yeah, thank you very much, Oswin, and I hope for those of you that are going to sleep that you have a good sleep. For those of you that are still watching, please enjoy Revive Snow or Kilgore. And for those of you that are just going to enjoy a book, I hope it's a good book. I have been reading British Security Coordination, The Secret History of British Intelligence in the Americas, 1940 to 1945. And it is basically real-life Assassin's Creed. So that's something we'll talk about later. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me.